we do accept that there is life there. I'm not saying, people will try and say that, do you not recognize there is life? There is life, but then life is a spectrum. See, plants are alive. That's life. Animals are alive. That's life. Humans and a fetus is not, in my understanding, the same as an actual human being. It is in the process of becoming a human being. People may disagree with me, that's fine, but that's my perspective. I feel that a fetus is in the developmental stages of becoming a human being. So it has not yet reached that state. Now, if it was terminated en route, that sounds a bit lethal.
It is lethal.
Well, yeah, abortion is very lethal.
I am, the Terminator from the future. I'll be back, right? So I don't mean it but if it was aborted for some reason, then I don't feel it's the same as saying, oh, it's okay to murder someone. To me, that's a dumb analogy. To me, that's a dumb analogy, okay? To some people, it may make sense. They may say, yeah, that's just the same as getting a 3-year-old child and murdering a 3-year-old child. And I think, like, I don't know what you're smoking, mate. But I think either you can pass it around and everybody can smoke it, and then we can be on the same level. No, so to me, these things are permissible, and people can't. And I know Americans especially
Okay. So that's the part that I really wanted. So sorry for playing that whole thing. That was
go ahead.
That was the part that I really wanted to
respond before I do. Go ahead.
So again, I don't want to say any disrespect to any of the figures that I'm, in engaging with. Mufti Abu Layth has taken some very brave positions, and I do appreciate his jovial attitude. Sometimes I think it can be a little bit excessive and can detract from the argument. But sometimes it's also important to keep in mind that people use laughing and jokes as a substitute for argumentation. I don't think that's a good idea, but I understand that that's what people are doing. I've noticed this with anti-theists a lot, actually. They instead, like Christopher Hitchens, he would do this. If he didn't have a strong philosophical argument, so he would just throw in the zinger, the crowd would, hurrah.
They loved it.
And they loved it. And people thought, oh, that's the end of it. But really, it's because he didn't have the philosophical rigor. So I think in this specific case, my criticism is just with this specific argument. Yes, I would say that Mufti Abu Layth's argument is not philosophically rigorous. And the reason is he's now come to the even more troubling viewpoint that life comes in gradations, so that a fetus is not as human and not as alive as a 3-year-old. Well, then is a 3-year-old less alive than a 25-year-old? If you look at the arguments that he raised, that it's still in the time of progression and still becoming fully human, well, that doesn't happen until you're 25 years of age, right? In some ways. So are we saying that a 3-year-old is not as human and alive? If we're, again, on that sinking Titanic, are we now going to throw out the 3-year-old to save the 25-year-old? Are we? And why take a 3-year-old? Take a newborn baby. Take a 1-year-old. Are you telling me that a newborn is born, it's like pretty much blind at birth? It can't do anything by itself.
Right.
It will die if you leave it for even a day or so, it will die. It's not the same as a 15-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 25-year-old, a 60-year-old. And should we then say when your grandpa becomes demented and an invalid, that now grandpa is also less of a human being? This is precisely that social constructivist view that I am critical of, and that I'm saying that no, we need to draw the line in the sand, that you're a human being, you are alive, that's all that matters. Now, what people will keep coming back to is, but they're not born yet. But that is circular logic. You have to justify why you're drawing the line at birth. And that, what we talked about in the previous episode, is very difficult to do, because it's very hard to see the difference between a newborn that's 1 minute old and a fetus that's 1 minute before delivery, right? It's very hard to see what the difference would be in any meaningful way.